Moving on now, we want to talk about one of the most talked about stories of the day, as a matter of fact. We all have bad days. But what if Facebook intentionally made it worse for you and for its users? A social media giant now admitting it allowed researchers to manipulate users' news feeds to either hide good news or bad. It was all part of a secret social experiment, and without knowing, nearly 700,000 Facebook users were guinea pigs. The results? People who were shown more negative content were more likely to write negative posts. And those in the positive group responded with more upbeat messages. Out front tonight, media analyst Steve Adubato, CNN senior media correspondent Brian Stelter, and CNN legal analyst Paul Callan. Well, that explains all the negative comments I've been getting on my Facebook posts. I don't know.
I guess that's why you put the bow tie on. Huh? Is that it, Don? Yeah.
No. I was just that I had something before the show, and I wanted to make sure I got back in time, and I wanted to read in, and I was concerned more about content than my bow tie. All right. So, Steve,
yes.
Thank you. So, people are outraged about this. Facebook responded to the backlash in a statement. Here's what they said. They said, quote, "We do research to improve our services and to make the content people see on Facebook as relevant and engaging as possible. A big part of this is understanding how people respond to different types of content." I mean, why would Facebook do something like this? I'm not really surprised. Are you shocked, really? But go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'm not shocked, but it is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen a corporation this big or small do, and I'll tell you why. It is one thing to know who we are and what we do, Don. It's one thing to try to understand our habits so that they can use that information to make business decisions. All right, we get that. It's the age we're living in. But when you start messing with our news feeds and decide that Paul Callan's a little too depressed today or Brian's a little too upbeat, and we're going to change that tone so that we see how people react, I ask the question, when did we sign up to be guinea pigs for you not just to monitor what we say and do on the internet, but to tweak and change what we do to see the reaction? Facebook is going to see some fallout. Instagram is going to see an uptick. This is a dumb move.
Okay, Steve, you're a journalist. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
We have focus groups in the news business where we tweak and change and do things, and we're programming because of focus groups. It's in a way that may be manipulating the news a little bit. Everyone, not just us. I don't mean just CNN. There are focus groups that say, "Do you like Don Lemon's tie? What do you think? Should he wear more blue? Should he wear more red? What about blonde hair? What about this?"
All good.
So, and Brian, so you say this, but this kind of move should be expected from Facebook, correct?
If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. This is one of those cases where if you are outraged, you're not paying attention. This is what Facebook exists to do. We all opted in the day we signed up for Facebook. By the way, this is one of the many reasons why my wife doesn't sign up for Facebook. Some people opt out, so they're not, experimented on, so they're not part of this grand trial that Facebook's doing. I'm much more bothered by advertisers that manipulate my emotions than I am by a very small study by Facebook.
Because advertisers do it, they do it with the
Oh, every time I drive by a fast food restaurant and I see a billboard, I'm being manipulated.
That's not what we signed up for, Don, respectfully. That's not what we signed up for.
Go ahead.
It isn't. It isn't. Brian, respectfully, that's not what we signed up for. We never signed up and said, Facebook, take my posts on newsfeed, and you know what? You can change it because you want to see what the reaction is going to be if it's a different post and see how people react. Where is that? Is that in the legal fine print? Maybe Paul can tell me it is. But I don't remember that deal.
Well, that's what I want to ask him, Paul. What about it? What about it? Is it a legal fine print?
Technically, it is. I was reading the disclosure form today that everybody has to sign off on when they say, "I accept." And it's got vague terminology about we have the right to experiment, to use different methodologies to feed you data. But this remains shocking to me nonetheless. What they're doing is they're going through your friends' feeds and picking out the bad news to feed to some people and the good news to feed to other people. And guess what? If you feed depressing news to people, they get depressed.
Shocking.
Getting to the lawsuit question. Now, what happens if you push somebody over the edge and they shoot themselves?
Great question. That's what I want to ask. Can they be held liable for that?
Well, they could if you could prove, and there's an action called negligent infliction of emotional distress. But here's the problem and why it's a hard lawsuit. there's so much bad news in the world. How's a lawyer going to prove Facebook pushed me over the cliff rather than, you know, watching a prison show on television?
Why
so
take the risk?
it would be a hard. You ever watch the local news? How depressing that is.
690,000 people involved, and
right.
you know, I think Facebook should probably give us all happier news. They should probably take the results of the study and push more positive stuff up for everybody.
And what about my right to be depressed that day and put what I want on? No, come on, Don. You know I'm not. Don, you know I'm a happy guy, Don. But if that day I'm a little down and I want to post something and say, listen, not feeling up to it today, just want to share my thoughts, I want to put that on Facebook. I want to post that on my news feed. Isn't that my right?
You know what does worry me, Don? The idea that they can tilt the balance in more important ways. If they just show me Republican stories or just show me Democratic news stories from sources that are in one direction, that's a problem. It's an even bigger problem if it's on the eve of an election. So that is something we should be severely concerned about when it comes to Facebook. And by the way, no evidence they actually do that.
Well,
what about advertisers who do it? I mean, am I the only one who cries during some commercials, like, you know, when the guy comes home from the war and the kids are there and they buy the house and you're like, oh my gosh, it's go.
You know, but we're used to that kind of manipulation. And getting back to the point you made when you were starting out about television shows, I mean, there are people who like depressing shows. They want to watch shows about prison. There are other people who like optimistic shows. So we do that in the business. But this is a secret feed of depressing or happy news to people who didn't sign up for it. And I think it's a disgrace that Facebook did it. They stopped doing it, fortunately.
That's right.
But it just shows you, you know, Facebook, Google, they know everything about every American citizen, and heaven help us if they become malevolent forces.
Hey, by the way, Don, why didn't they announce it? Why didn't they announce they were doing it, Don? If they were so proud of it and had nothing to apologize for, why didn't they put out a big press release and announce it on the Facebook, all over Facebook? It's in the fine print for a reason.
I got to run, though, but I want to ask you, tip of the iceberg first, Steve, just a yes or no.
Absolutely. I think that is part of the culture of Facebook. I don't have evidence or proof of it, but if you do this, it means you're doing some other stuff, in my opinion.
Brian?
Well, they're doing lots of other experiments right now. I don't think any of them are probably about positive or negative emotions, but they're running A/B tests all the time, and I think they will continue to.
Paul?
The worst is yet to come. Technology is moving at such a rate, we can't keep up to it, and the law can't control it.
But also the best yet to come?
Strap yourself
positive
Thank
emotions?
you, guys.
Okay.
Appreciate
I'll try
it.
to be positive.
That's a crazy series of neckties along that screen there that I'm looking at today.
Nerve. I love yours.
Look at that. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Always good to see you guys.